Okay, welcome to this deep dive. We're jumping straight into a really popular personal finance strategy you shared sources on, the 70-10-10-10 budget rule.
Yeah, it gets talked about a lot.
So our mission really is to unpack this, see how it's supposed to help you manage your income and, if it actually helps build that financial security.
Right. And the core idea, it seems, is simplicity, a balanced way to just see where your money's going.
Or where it should be going, I guess. Covering the bases, needs, saving, future growth, even giving back.
Exactly. It tries to tick all those boxes.
So it slices up your after-tax income, right?
Right.
4 pieces, specific percentages. Let's start with the biggest chunk, the 70% for living expenses.
Okay. So the 70%, it's the main pot. It needs to cover your essentials, your needs, rent, mortgage, food, utilities, transport, healthcare, minimum debt payments.
The absolute must-haves.
The must-haves, yes. But also, and this is key, your wants. The discretionary stuff, eating out, shopping, Netflix, travel, hobbies.
Wow, so everything from the roof over your head to, like, grabbing a coffee?
Pretty much. And the real discipline here, based on what we read, is actually living within that 70%, which for a lot of people means consciously maybe cutting back on some wants so the total doesn't spill over.
Right, it forces you to be aware of where that big chunk is actually going.
Exactly. Get that under control first.
Okay, that makes sense. Keep the main spending in check. Now, what about the first 10% slice? Savings.
Right, the first 10%. This is all about your financial safety net and shorter-term goals.
Like an emergency fund?
Precisely. For those unexpected things, medical bills pop up, you lose work for a bit, car needs fixing, that kind of stuff. But also for things you know you want soon, like saving for a down payment on a car or maybe a vacation.
This feels like that classic pay yourself first advice.
It absolutely is, baked right in. And the sources really push automating this 10%.
Ah, set up the transfer.
Yeah. Just have it move automatically when you get paid. Then it's saved before you even see it, before you can spend it. Turns saving from a maybe into a definite.
Okay, so 70% living, 10% immediate savings. Next up is another 10%. This one's for investing.
This 10% is focused squarely on a long term. Building wealth, hitting those really big future goals.
So retirement funds, things like that.
Exactly. Retirement accounts, PF, MPS, mutual funds, stocks, whatever fits your plan. Or maybe saving for your kids' education down the road, or a house deposit way off in the future.
So this isn't cash you plan to touch anytime soon.
Definitely not next year. This is money you want to put to work, hopefully growing over years, maybe decades.
Makes sense. Invest for growth. And the sources mentioned diversification too, right?
Yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket, essentially. Spread it out to manage the risk.
Okay, and the final 10%. This one seems a bit different. Giving, donations, or maybe accelerated debt repayment.
Yes, this last 10% is interesting because it offers flexibility. You can use it for, say, charitable giving, supporting causes you care about.
Or helping people out directly.
Sure, helping family or friends. Or, and this is the other path, you can channel this 10% into hitting your debts harder, making extra payments.
Ah, so beyond the minimums that are already in the 70% bucket.
Exactly. This is about accelerating getting out of debt. So it's a choice. Use this slice for philanthropy, aligning money with values, or use it to speed up becoming debt-free.
Interesting. So if someone listening wants to try this, how do they start? What are the practical steps?
Well, the sources lay it out pretty simply. First, figure out your net income, what you actually take home after tax.
Okay.
Then step 2, set up those automatic transfers for the 3 10% slices, savings, investing, giving, debt. Make it happen automatically.
Get it out of the main account right away.
Right. Then you track your spending to stay within that remaining 70%. If you're going over, you need to look hard at where to cut back, usually the wants. And finally, check in regularly. Does it still work? Has your income changed? Adjust it.
It does sound simpler than, say, cracking every single penny. That's probably a big draw.
That's definitely a major benefit mentioned. Easy to grasp, covers the main areas, builds discipline up front. Plus, you have that flexibility inside the 70% and the final 10%.
But it can't work perfectly for everyone, right? Are there downsides or situations where it needs, like, major changes?
That's a really important point the sources raise.
Yeah.
If your income is very low, for example, or your essential costs are just incredibly high because of where you live, then hitting that 70% for all living costs might be, well, really tough.
Yeah.
Maybe impossible without big changes.
Okay.
Also, its simplicity means it doesn't give you super detailed tracking within the 70% unless you do that separately.
Right.
And critically, if you're drowning in high interest debt, just using that flexible 10% for extra payments might not be aggressive enough. You might need to pour all of that 10% into debt and maybe even find cuts within the 70% to really attack it faster.
And so it's more like a starting template, maybe, not a rigid rule you can never break.
Absolutely. The consistent message is adapt it. Make it fit your life, your income, your goals. It's a great framework to begin with, but maybe not the final answer for every single person.
Right. So wrapping up, the 70-10-10-10 rule seems like a straightforward but potentially powerful guide for managing money, building good habits, and aiming for a more secure future, as long as you tailor it.
Yeah, tailor it to your reality. Which leads to a good thought for you listening, thinking about your own situation, your own habits. Which piece of this rule, the 70% living, 10% saving, 10% investing, or that final 10% for giving or debt, which one feels like it would be the biggest challenge for you to stick to consistently? And maybe ask yourself,
Right.
Why is that? What does that reveal?